Hi folks, welcome to this video on aggression in sport. So this is again on the sports psychology topics. We're going to start with a couple of definitions and show you a quick video to try and highlight the definitions that I've provided here. So aggression written in blue, whoops, putting the wrong thing on. Aggression written in blue there is the intent to harm outside of the rules of the sport. Now the key thing here is making sure if you're going to give a definition of aggression, it's those two key things there, intent to harm and outside the rules. That's what makes an act aggressive. Those two key things. You've got to make sure you mention those. Now, now that's unwanted. Aggression is unwanted in sport if we're going to be totally ethical about it. What we do want, and what is actually quite good, is assertion, which we've got here, and that is basically channeled aggression. You might have heard of it as channeled aggression before, and this is being forceful but within the rules, and it's perfectly legal. So being forceful but within the rules and perfectly legal is the three key things associated with assertion. A brief clip, as you can see, it's only 34 seconds long. What you're going to watch is an act of aggression and an act of assertion. Which is which?
Well, there it is, Rogers, and what's up, pushing and shoving across the penalty, turn around, gives him a clip over the ear for holding on. Well, that's great work. Oh, sensational tackle. And as he gets the ball, he gets smashed. That is classic crunching defence.
What about this? Underneath the rib cage. Have some of that. He's pretty tough character, Matt Rogers. He'll get back up.
Well, the happiest man on the field after that is
diving around on the ground. How much pain can you be in? Oh.
Right, so what we saw there was a couple of incidents involving England number 15, Josh Lucey, and the Aussie 21, Matt Rogers. Now, what you saw in the first instance was an act of aggression between them, throwing punches. Now, throwing punches is outside the rules of the sport, and obviously, if you're throwing a punch, you're intending to harm the person that you're punching. So that is an act of aggression in rugby. What then followed was that big crunching tackle from Josh Lucey. What he did was, instead of retaliating too much, held his breath, walked away, stored up that aggression that he'd built up, and he channeled it into the next tackle. And that was an act of assertion because that next tackle was very forceful, but it was within the rules of the game and it was perfectly legal. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't go high in the tackle. He didn't tackle him off the ball or anything like that. So that was the act of aggression followed by the act of assertion. Now, did Josh Lucey probably secretly intend to harm him during that tackle? Probably, yeah. I bet he hoped to break a couple of ribs. But that's not relevant. It's the fact that what he did was forceful, within the rules, and perfectly legal. Therefore, it was an act of assertion. And a good coach wants to get rid of aggression and encourage assertion. Now, obviously, aggression does occur in sport. And what we're going to look at now are the theories surrounding why we see aggression in sport. And I've tried to, get it down into the key points so that we can, just break it down and see what would get us marks in terms of the exam. So, first of all, is instinct theory of aggression. So instincts, as you might expect, we've all got natural instincts. So what this theory is basically saying is aggression is a natural characteristic. All of us human beings on planet Earth have an aggressive gene, have an aggressive instinct within inside of us. It's innate. And where does it come from? It comes from Darwinism, Charles Darwin, survival of the fittest. Millions, tens of thousands, whatever years ago, we've evolved from creatures that used to be hunted. So we had to have an aggressive gene within us to survive. That fight or flight, a thing that we sometimes talk about. And obviously that stayed with us. Even a priest in church on Sunday has the gene to be aggressive if you push the right buttons. We all have it. So what often happens is aggression builds inside us and it can become quite dangerous, according to instinct theory. Now, why do we see aggressive acts in sport and physical activity? It's because as this aggression builds, it's a natural thing that we need to release it. And we see sport and exercise as an acceptable place to release aggression. This lady here has had a bad day at work, bad day at the office, whatever it is, really wound up. So she goes to the gym on her way home and she knocks the hell out of that punch bag for 10, 15, 20 minutes and feels a hell of a lot better afterwards having done it. So she's released that aggression during physical activity. But that's an acceptable way of doing it. But what can actually happen is in a game of football, game of netball, game of basketball, you can then act aggressively because you've had a bad day, because aggression has built up within you during the course of the day. And we call this release of aggression catharsis, or you have had a cathartic experience. So that is the instincts theory of aggression. So they're the key points that you need to remember about instinct theory of aggression. Aggression is genetic, it's innate in all of us. It comes from the survival of the fittest. Aggression builds, and we view sport as an acceptable place to release aggression, and this release of aggression is known as catharsis. Right, so another theory of aggression, or why we see aggression in sport, is this: the frustration aggression hypothesis. Now, this is quite relatively straightforward because the title gives you everything you need to know. Frustration aggression, right. The individual is blocked from achieving their goals. So, for example, if you're being marked really tightly in a game and you're not getting much time or space, or somebody's really doing the number on you, so you are really being clamped down on, you can't get space, you're being denied all the scoring opportunities, something like that, that will lead to a build-up of aggression. So you're getting frustrated with your performance because you're being blocked from achieving your goals, and that leads to a state of aggression. Going back to what we did on the first slide, looking at the two different types of aggression, intent to harm outside the rules, assertion, playing within the rules but being forceful. If you channel that aggression correctly and show assertion, you will achieve success, even though you're initially being frustrated and being blocked from achieving your goals. However, if you show proper, full-blown aggression, then you will break the rules and your punishment will follow. And this is what we're seeing here. You want to drive, you want to win your game. You're being blocked by an opponent, by your opposition's tactics, whatever it is, something like that. And that leads to a state of frustration and ultimately leads to a state of aggression. But if you channel that aggression into assertion, you will see success and you will have that release of aggression that we just spoke about, known as catharsis. However, if you go good old-fashioned aggression, break the rules, intent to harm, that will lead to a punishment, being sent off, yellow carded, and if anything, leads to even greater frustration. So that is the frustration aggression hypothesis. Use the two words, frustration aggression, to explain it. You're frustrated because you've been blocked from achieving your goals. It leads to a build-up of aggression. But if you use that aggression and channel it into assertion, you'll see success. If you don't and you produce an aggressive act, you will be punished. Now, the next one is the aggressive cue hypothesis. Now, I've put here something because it's very similar to frustration aggression hypothesis, and I put that in because I always used to get these two confused myself, and that's why I've been big on making sure you're using the words in the previous one, frustration aggression. This is similar to it but slightly different. You are getting frustrated, okay, and that is leaving or creating to a readiness for aggression. The aggression is building up inside you, and I bet you've been in those situations where you felt yourself getting wound up, and it's building and it's building and it's building, and we call that a readiness for aggression. However, if aggression is going to occur, a certain stimuli must be present. So a foul on a teammate, jeering from the crowd. Now, this is where it's different to frustration aggression. Remember, frustration aggression, you were being blocked from achieving your goals, which was leading to the state of frustration. What's happening here is there are many things going wrong, and it's creating this readiness for aggression. And then all there is something else happens, bang, and that is your cue, your stimuli to then act aggressively. For example, here, there's a big punch-up going on between all these players. How many of them are actually involved in the original incident? 2 or 3 at most. So why are all these others wading in, throwing punches? It's because all of them are following this aggressive cue hypothesis. They've all been getting wound up during the game. It's a state of origin match, so it's us against you, and they're getting that readiness for aggression building up inside of them, and then maybe someone punches one of their teammates, and that's it. They're all getting involved. That stimuli has happened, and then you've all jumped in and you've all started being aggressive. And what then happens is the performer then associates this cue with aggressive acts. So if there's another punch later on in the game, chances are there's another load of people go charging in and start throwing punches at each other. So that then becomes a stimuli for further incidents in the game. And finally, then you'll be glad to hear, so this is the 4th theory of aggression. There's been 4: instinct theory, frustration aggression theory, aggressive cue hypothesis, and finally this one, social learning theory, something you're very, very familiar with. When you looked at skill acquisition and Bandura, observational learning, we learn through watching and copying. This is exactly the same here. So not only can we learn skills and techniques and tactics through watching role models, we can also learn aggression, can't we? And hence why many governing bodies are putting big fines and bans on aggressive acts in their sport. So, to summarise, we learn by observing, watching and copying. That is social learning theory. Remember, The other name for social learning theory is observational learning theory or observation theory. It's known as a vicarious experience. What that means is you're living your experience through someone else. You're seeing someone else doing something, and then you're almost getting those same emotions, getting those same feelings from it. So if you watch someone feeling aggressive on the pitch or on court, you will probably start, if it's someone you admire in particular, you'll start feeling a little bit aggressive yourself. But we learn that, we watch them be aggressive, and then we'll be aggressive ourselves. So learning this way can be encouraged through reinforcement. So aggression can be learned by watching others being aggressive and copying, or by having aggression reinforced. I bet you've all been involved in the school ground, in the schoolyard, where someone's punched or kicked someone else, and what does everyone do? They start shouting, fight, 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 fight. Does that make the situation any better? No, of course it doesn't. It just makes the punches wilder and faster, the kicks heavier. You're reinforcing the aggressive act, and that's what happens as well. When a crowd starts cheering when there's a punch-up, that makes the punch-up even worse. If you see aggressive acts being reinforced and praised, that is going to increase your chance of being aggressive as well. Now, this one doesn't contradict, but it kind of, goes against a little bit or disputes instinct theory. Remember, instinct theory was we all have the capacity to be aggressive. We all have an aggressive gene, or that's innate inside of all of us. Whereas this one says actually aggression can be learned. It doesn't have to be inside us right from birth. It can be learned. But also crucially, and here's the key part of it, non-aggressive acts can also be learned. So just as we can learn aggression by watching aggressive acts, we can unlearn aggression. We can discourage aggression by making sure that we show people positive role models. People who don't fight but are still successful in their sports. So that's quite important as well. So this video has been about the types of aggression and the theories of aggression. Hope you found it useful, folks.